Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mr. West's Neck of the Woods. Reading a book by Patrick McManus entitled Real Ponies Don't Go Oink. Chapter number 2 is Strange Meets Matilda Jean. I had always wanted to have a dog that I could be proud of, but instead, I had Strange. All my friends were proud of their dogs. They bragged constantly about how Sport or Biff or Rags or Pal had run off a burglar, saved a little girl from drowning, brought in their father's newspaper, warned the family just in time that the house was on fire, rounded up cows, pointed pheasants, retrieved ducks, and performed such amazing and entertaining tricks that I had a hard time believing the dog didn't have a movie contract. Strange, on the other hand, would have welcomed burglars with open paws and stood watch while they looted the house. He never saved anybody from anything. He enjoyed chasing cows, but merely for the sport. He considered pointing impolite. If he retrieved a duck, it was for his own use. Any tricks he knew, he kept them to himself. He was a connoisseur of the disgusting. He turned up his nose at my grandmother's cooking, then dined happily on cow chips, year-old roadkill, and the awful offal of neighborhood butcherings. Occasionally, he scrawled his territorial signature on the leg of a complete stranger, as though it were a noble fireplug. Bad dog. Sorry about your pant leg, mister. As I was saying, would it be all right if I fish the creek behind your place? I'll close the gates. Strange was also an enthusiastic crotch sniffer, causing visitors to gyrate like belly dancers in their efforts to escape his probing nose, all the while trying to carry on a normal conversation as if nothing embarrassing were happening down below. Concern for the sensibilities of the reader prevents me from mentioning some of my dog's more disgusting hobbies, except to say they involved highly noxious fumes, chickens, human legs, embarrassing itch, and various slurpy aspects of what passes for dog hygiene. Strange apparently held the view that his hobbies were vastly entertaining to the public at large. Whenever we had dinner guests, he would run through his repertoire of the disgusting in front of the dining room window. How'd you like that one? He would ask, smiling at us, as though expecting a standing ovation. No dessert for me, thanks, our guest would respond. Strange was a major social liability. There's nothing worse, my grandmother once commented, than an egg sucking dog. Strange doesn't suck eggs, I proudly I said proudly, desperate to find something favorable about my dog. I stand corrected, Graham said. There is something worse, she said. Strange didn't relate well. We never thought of Strange as our dog. He was his own dog. What I disliked most about him was his arrogance. If I threw a stick and told him fetch, he would give me this insolent stare which said, Fetch it yourself, Dumbo. You threw it. Then he would flip a cigarette butt at me, blow out a steam of smoke, and slouch back into his doghouse. Well, no, of course, he didn't really smoke cigarettes, but that was the essence of his attitude, as though he had watched too many movies about hard boiled detectives. Strange clearly thought of himself as a big, tough canine, even though he was probably the smallest dog in our neighborhood. He was rather sickly looking, too, with chronically bloodshot eyes and a loose, leering mouth. Eating year-old roadkill probably does that to you. I can't imagine what a vet would have recommended for a dog like Strange. Probably a parole officer. Strange swaggered about our place as though he owned it. You can almost see him thinking, I won this house in a crap game, and there ain't nobody telling me what to do on my own property. After one of his particularly obnoxious offenses, often involving deadly toxic fumes, my grandmother would grab him by two handfuls of hide and send him flying outside, whereupon Strange would turn and he would snarl at her. Try that again, old woman, and you'll hear from my lawyer. Then he would take out his vengeance on a chicken or squirrel or anything he could find that was smaller than himself. He reigned supreme in the confines of our own yard, or in the confines of our yard. Then one day my sister, Troll, brought home a huge yellow tomcat. The cat was half as big as she was. It was the cat version of an offensive all-pro tackle and looked as if it ate scrap iron for breakfast. Its purr rattled dishes in the cupboard. Sex education not yet having been introduced in our schools, my sister named the burly yellow beast Matilda Jean. I was so disgusted with the name I almost gagged, but she said it was her cat. She'd name it anything that she pleased. How do you know it's a tomcat anyway? She sniffed at me. Troll had me there. We went to the same school. It just looked like a tom. Although Matilda Jean was thoroughly gentle and affectionate with members of the family, he obviously was a fighter. One ear had been gnawed half off, patches of fur were missing, and numerous scars recorded the history of a violent brawling past. Matilda Jean lounged around the house all the first day at his new home, but that evening he got up, stretched, rippled his shoulder and neck muscles like yellow waves on a pond, strode to the door, and then he asked to be let out. Later that night, as we were preparing for bed, a terrible cat fight broke out on the roof of our house. It raged back and forth over the roof, up one side and down the other. We rushed out to save poor Matilda Jean and chase off the intruder. We needn't have bothered. Suddenly, a tangled, writhing, screeching knot of cats toppled off the roof and thumped to the ground. Matilda Jean landed on his back at the bottom and for a moment was stunned. The intruder, a big black and white model owned by our neighbors, saw its chance. It pulled itself together, a fairly complicated task, matching up the various parts, and streaked off into the night. Matilda Jean got up, rippled his muscles, and climbed back to the roof, apparently taking upon himself the responsibility of protecting us from any shifty-eyed scoundrels who might happen by. Strange had been away from home for 2 days. We thought nothing of it, since he regularly went off carousing with his cronies. When he didn't show up the day after the cat fight, however, I began to worry. He wasn't much of a dog, but he was all the dog I had. Maybe something happened to him, I said to Graham. There you go again, she said, getting my hopes up. I went out to see if Strange had slipped in unnoticed and was sacked out in his doghouse, sleeping off a hangover. The doghouse was empty. Then I saw him sauntering down the road, occasionally glancing over his shoulder to check whether he was being tailed, possibly by the vice squad. He stopped at the gate and scanned the yard in search of a chicken or squirrel available for assault and battery. The yard, however, was empty. Matilda Jean peered intently down from the roof on the lookout for shifty-eyed scoundrels. Strange, of course, fit the description. The cat dropped to the ground a few feet from the startled dog. It is difficult to know what goes through a dog's mind, but I suspect the few cognitive processes available to Strange were assessing the situation something like this. A cat. What's a full cat doing on my property? Dogs chase cats, and I'm a dog. Therefore, I'm going to chase this cat, and I'm going to teach it a good lesson. The cat will start running any second. Get ready. Matilda Jean didn't start running. His back arched, his hair bristled, his tail lashed back and forth like a ragged yellow whip. Strange eyed the cat calmly. So it's a fight the pussy cat wants. Well, he's come to the right place. He clamped a cigar in his teeth, struck a match on the seat of his pants, lit the cigar, and flicked the match away. Eyes squinted, he smiled grimly. Around the cigar as he Eyes squinted, he smiled grimly around the cigar as he loosened the guns in his holsters. Draw, cat. Woof, he said. Kill! Matilda Jean screamed. Finally, my dog did something I could brag about. The next day at school, I casually mentioned that my dog was really something. You won't believe what he did last night. My friends stared at me in astonishment. You don't mean Strange, do you? One of them said. You got another dog? No, I said. It was Strange. What happened? Troll brought home this big old tomcat, and Strange and it got in a heck of a fight. And you won't believe this, but right in the middle of the fight, the cat and Strange went right up the tarmac tree in our yard. Strange raced up. Strange raced up it just like a squirrel. Man, it was something to see. That old cat was so surprised and almost fell out of the tree. Wow, somebody said. No kidding. You mean Strange actually chased a cat up a tree and climbed up after it? People always get so distracted by petty details. What did it matter? Who chased whom? The important thing was my dog climbed a tree. That's the end of chapter number 2. Strange meets Matilda Jean. Chapter number 3, which we will read another day. Tough guys don't bird. And as always, peace out from the West.